This Soonerscoop.com video is streaming in crystal clear 4K resolution on YouTube thanks to Enjoy Vision in Oklahoma City. Don't miss a moment on or off the field. Make every day a highlight with LASIK at Enjoy Vision. Enjoy Vision. This is where Sooner Scoop LASIKs.
Hello and welcome back. Eddie Radosovich, George Stoya here on a Friday, May 9th. Hello. How are we? Welcome back to the Soonerscoop.com YouTube channel. Around the quarter, taking all the questions from the Crimson Quarter and bringing it here to you on YouTube. Big game tonight, Game 3, headed up to Denver. 43-point win on Wednesday night. A nice bounce back for the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yes, it was great for my mental health as well. So
interesting.
Hopefully,
I've heard a nasty rumor out on the interwebs about you, George.
Well, what is it?
I've heard you're deleting tweets. Is this accurate?
I did delete a tweet from Monday where I was like, this was just a terrible loss.
Interesting. Well,
I mean,
credit to you for
I was
owning
being
it.
so dramatic.
You were being dramatic.
So,
and like I told you, it was just
Thunder
1-0
in
at
5.
the time. Hopefully. Just get a split.
Just get a win.
Come back for Game 5. That's
it
all
would be
I
nice
want.
if it was tonight, though. It'd make me feel a lot better. I don't want the pressure of Sunday.
Well, and I don't think our mothers want the pressure of that as well. Happy Mother's Day to everybody. Before we get into some of the questions from the Crimson Quarter, let us tell you about our good friends over at Roback, RHOBACK.com. You've heard it before if you've watched the program. They've been with us since the, beginning of football season, really. But all you got to do is go to Roback.com and use the promo code Sooner20 to get 20% off. You got the everyday shorts, the Delta Performance pants, which are a nice pairing right now as the temps are out here. It's actually fantastic today.
Amazing weather, amazing time to get some Roback. I know you and I wear it pretty much every single day.
Absolutely.
So this weekend is the perfect time to have it too.
Absolutely. As the Thunder and all of the Mother's Day festivities begin. So just go to Roback.com, use the promo code as you see up there on the screen behind us, Suitor20 for 20% off. All right, a lot to get into. OU softball, they're about to get underway. We're recording this on a Friday afternoon. They play in the SEC tournament semifinals this afternoon at 3 o'clock after a opening win. It was a really kind of complete performance, a one-hit complete game from Sam Landry.
Yep.
So Arkansas, we watched that game yesterday. They beat up on Tennessee.
They're like one of the hottest teams in the country right now.
Sure.
Arkansas is playing extremely well, so this should be a really good matchup.
Texas kind of effed around a little bit on Thursday. Yeah. They're in the semifinals against Texas A&M. So Patty Gasso, she gets honored on Friday afternoon as SEC Coach of the Year. And Rampage Taco, yesterday, as of 10:21 p.m., yesterday being Thursday, about 1 hour and 5 minutes in, talking about SEC Coach of the Year in softball. I agree with George in that Patty should win, but she probably won't for the same reason Nick Saban didn't win it more often. Expectations are extremely high, and there's a massive surprise in South Carolina who was picked near the bottom to start the year. Patty probably won't win it, and whoever the voters are and don't want Oklahoma or Texas, for that matter, to win anything in year one. Well, as it turns out, on Friday morning, it was announced by the SEC conference or by the Southeastern Conference that Patty Gasso is the head coach of the year,
and rightfully so. I said it on the unofficial 40 that Rampage Taco was referring to, but you look at how many players they lost from last year and that group that was the greatest of all time, and how many young freshmen they've got, transfers coming in. Obviously, Sam Landry coming over from Louisiana. The job Patty's done this year to get this team to where they are, possibly the best team in the country right now, is pretty remarkable. To win the SEC, unbelievable.
I think we were talking the other day in the office during the SEC tournament, 5 different teams from the SEC or 4 different teams from the SEC have been number one throughout the season.
I think it's maybe 6.
6?
There's
unbelievable.
6. I think the top 6 in the country right now are
all
SEC
SEC teams.
So, I mean, it's
crazy.
To win this conference is pretty remarkable. And, it turns out that people don't just hate OU and vote against them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe. We'll see. Sam Landry was also named newcomer of the year for the conference on Friday. Bob Przybyla wrote a article about everything, getting into the numbers. And then you also had 2 first-team selections in Nelly McEnroe-Moranis, who led the SEC in home runs this season, as well as Cassidy Pickering, who
She's
don't
been a
think that,
baller.
like, if you haven't really been following it game to game,
Yeah.
she is having an unbelievable season. It's kind of hard
Probably
to
their
believe she's
most consistent hitter right now.
sure. But Ella Parker's starting to come along as the clock turns, or I guess as the calendar turns to May. So congratulations to Patty Gasso and the rest of the OU softball team. Norman Regionals will begin next weekend. We say that. I mean, it's probably expected, but they're going to be a regional in Norman at Loves Field next week. And then obviously we'll see. Things should progress here over the next couple of days. We'll see how they finish up the SEC tournament. But Oklahoma should be a top 8 seed, a national seed within the college NCAA tournament for softball. So, all right, very good for OU softball. Moving on. We had the great Pete Nakos on Thursday, kind of a little bit of a summary, if you will, of the spring portal. It was good to talk to Pete. He's been all over it. I know that you guys kind of work hand in hand in terms of chasing all of these guys down. We did a little bit as well in the program yesterday. You can see it here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel. Just us talking about, the 6 guys that they're bringing in, 20 total when you added in all of the guys, John Mateer and everybody that came in during the fall period. But we asked him about the NIL situation here in Norman. And this was Pete Nakos' answer.
I wanted to ask you something that is a question I get like every single week in my mailbag, and I feel like you're the perfect person to ask this question to. There's always this talk of OU's poor, right? They don't have the money to compete with the big boys. And while I know that they don't have Texas money or Oregon money, or you see what Texas Tech is doing in terms of NIL and just going out and getting guys. Where is OU though? Like in the total landscape, like are they a top 10, top 15, top 20? Like where would you say they are in terms of NIL dollars and being able to spend with the big boys?
I would say they're probably top 30. I'd say like top 20, 30. And I think I need to spend some more time before I give you like 110% answer on that. But the one thing I'll say when it comes to OU and money right now is I've been extremely impressed by what they had to do to spend to get John Mateer. And it wasn't the biggest offer on the table, and we all know that. But it was definitely enough to make him be like, I want to go play for Ben Arbuckle and give it a shot in Norman. So that's one thing. I feel like I'm on here right now, so I got to say it. I was wrong about Dominic Williams a year ago. OU obviously did enough financially to beat out Texas there. So that's the other thing. And then you don't get Jaden Ott as quickly as they did without having an impressive, NIL contract put in front of them. So I think Oklahoma has definitely turned the tides when it comes to like OU's poor and things like that in the last, 12 months or so.
Very much a situation that Oklahoma is having to kind of compete with some of the upper echelon guys, right? But at the same time, they have money. Yep. It's just not going to be the money that I think a lot of people expect it to be.
And I knew when Pete said that comment, top 30, OU fans were going to lose their minds.
Sure.
But I think you also need to look at it this way. There's a top 10 and maybe even like a top 5 to 8 more so. And then there's a group of like 20 to 30 schools that are probably all in the same boat. Right. And I would put, I think Georgia's in that same category. I think Alabama's probably somewhere in that same category. So you're talking about some big programs that aren't in that category, like a Texas is, Oregon, Texas Tech, some of these schools that just have money coming from all these different places. So, look, I understand people are frustrated with that, but I think that it is what it is. And also, Pete, he said he doesn't know 100% for sure what the money actually is.
We probably know even a little bit more so on the Oklahoma side of things, being inside the bubble. Of course, everybody's going to have an opinion on it. We go to the Crimson Corner, Atlanta Sooner. This is a comment on top of Redhead 09. Some of these names just kind of crack me up. When he said we're top 30, that really hit me in the gut. Can you be a national champ contender and be top 30? Honest question. Atlanta Suitor says, if a top 30 NIL program is to win the national title, they better hit on a hell of a lot of under-the-radar evaluations. NIL isn't everything, but combine that with good coaching and culture, you better have a Sam Presti and still need some regulation to help even the playing field. And I think that there is, like, everything goes into the program, right? And I think that, like, I guess it's kind of easy for us to point to Michael Fasusi or Ryan Foje, David Stone, Jaden Jackson, any of the guys that they've been able to pick up on the offensive line that, you had to pay these guys. You had to get them to campus. You use the example of a John Mateer from the transfer portal or a Jaden Ott. I think things are going well, and maybe if you're able to perform a little bit better on the field, you do get kind of that culmination of, if you want to use the Sam Presti effect of a great culture, people are going to take maybe a little bit of a pay cut to be a part of that.
That's what I was going to say. Is a lot of those guys you mentioned, OU wasn't the highest bidder for most of those guys, if not all of them. And so recruiting still matters, and being able to do that at a high level. Development still matters. Keeping guys in the building, retaining players. I know last year Ohio State spent a lot of money on their roster, right? More than anybody in college football is what was reported. 2 years ago, though, Michigan, who won the national title, they weren't, they were top 15 in recruiting every year. They weren't a huge player in the portal. They weren't spending a ton of money on their roster. They were spending a good amount, but not like what Ohio State did. So it's been proven in the portal and NIL era that a school like a Michigan, that's a blue blood program, can win a national title and not spend millions and millions of dollars. So I think Oklahoma can do it. It's extremely tough. And we also got to see what happens with revenue sharing. Does that even the playing field? But to their point, you got to have a Sam Presti. Either that's with money or without money. You've got to have somebody as a GM who knows what they're doing, and Oklahoma feels like they have that in Jim Nagy.
And, I would say, too, that, it's a small sample size, right? But when you look at the money that has been spent across college football, whether it be in Columbia, Missouri, or Oxford, Mississippi, Lubbock, those teams didn't play for a national championship last year. In fact, none of them, if I remember correctly, were playing in a college football playoff either.
Correct.
So it's a
and
it's
look what like
definitely a
Arizona
juggling
State
act.
did. You think Arizona State, Kenny Dillingham, I think just did an unbelievable job. I don't think they're out spending millions and millions of dollars in NIL. They just did a great job recruiting, developing, and just coaching.
The 2025 season is just a couple months away. I guess it's kind of crazy to look at it like that. But September 13th, there will be a lot of Oklahoma fans headed up to Philly. I know that I've been sending you places that we see that people are eating.
What's the name of that place?
The PGA Tour is in Philadelphia this weekend, and I know that the cheesesteaks have been
That place looked amazing.
But we're going there. I forget what the name of it is. It's one of the
like a hole in the wall place.
Bob Does Sports. I think went by Wednesday or Thursday of this week. We've definitely gotten that. But there are some questions about tickets going into the game. OU and Temple coming up on September 13th. More GJ1. Taking my son should be great. If you haven't bought tickets yet, look at Temple season tickets. It's $50 more per seat where we are, and they have 5 other home games. Got to imagine you could sell them for more than $10 a game, but it's Temple, so maybe not. You probably will be taking a little bit of a chance if you do that. I don't know what the resale value is for Temple Owl football right now.
No, but so is it $50 per game per seat?
I don't know.
Or is it $50 for season tickets? Because
it's probably $50 per seat, but the tickets are $50 more than the OU ticket.
Okay. Well, whatever it is, I thought it was clever just because, when OU plays at Tulsa, a lot of OU fans buy Tulsa season tickets, and then they're like, oh, Tulsa sold out in season tickets. So I wonder, in Temple, I believe the game is at Eagle Stadium.
Yeah, Lincoln Financial.
So I don't know. I mean, surely I think OU fans can find some cheap tickets there, but all I know is it's going to be, because I saw that thread on the board, I'm looking forward to that trip.
I am too.
I think it's going to be awesome to see the city of Philadelphia. I've never been there before. Them play at Lincoln Field will be really cool, and you would expect Oklahoma to go down there and, I would assume, perform extremely well. I think Temple. I don't even know who Temple's head coach is. Stan Drayton was fired.
It's the guy from Texas State or Sam Houston. McKillop.
Oh, I don't know.
I think they just hired him. It's his first year.
Well,
He's
there you
making
go.
the job. He took him from FCS to Division I, did really well at Sam Houston, and then I think he got hired up at Temple. So we'll see.
Be fun.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. Very excited about it. Maybe we can hook up with Jalen Hurts while we're up there even. If
awesome.
not him, definitely Grant Calcaterra and
Lane Johnson.
I think that they're out of town, though.
Oh.
I don't think that they're in Philly that weekend. We shall see, though. All right. We continue on. A couple of pod questions, I believe, on the horizon. Rampage Taco just started listening. I have 2 questions. Is George's part of the intro going to stay that way forever? And then a follow-up, if he's going to get a real name read from Big Voice Guy, will that happen within 1 year of the On3 acquiring rivals process being completed and or before whatever new people they're going to get hired to get into the intro? I don't know the question, or I don't know the answer to that. That might be a Kerry Murdoch question. I think we've just kind of kept it that way for a long time because George not having his name in the intro is performed by Big Voice Guy, but whatever hypothetical person people getting the weekly introduction would be pretty funny. George, what do you feel about this?
I don't really care. I think it's fun that my name is in there the way that it is. I think it's you saying my name in the intro.
Yeah, it is.
Which is totally fine by me. That's better than it wasn't in there for a whole year at all. So
Do you think it affects your performance in the podcast because you don't have your name in the big voice guy?
No, not at all. But I also think the people expecting it to ever get in there are delusional. That's not how things work at Sooner Scoop.
That's right. Casey Keller is the guy's name, by the way. That's the head coach at Temple. Gary Murdoch followed up. Are you saying that fixing the pod intro is how we lift the Stoya curse?
Now, this is an interesting one because I do think that could help. But again, that'll probably not happen. And so the curse will live on.
I think to do that, you would have to write about it. And then we would get the big voice guy to fix it. And then it would be like a big full
reverse
circle type of thing. Yeah, reverse jinx.
Yeah.
George kills his own intro is what Kerry Burdock says. And I'm all for it. I've never really listened to the intro. It's been a couple years. So that's where we'll go with that. It's just like, it's kind of one of those white noises things when we started.
Yeah,
heard it so many times that it doesnand really compute with me anymore. All right, let's go to some of the stuff that George wanted to get into, talking about President Trump. Him and Nick Saban obviously going to co-chair the commission that has been put together to talk about NIL and college sports. Nick Saban and Cody Campbell, the Diamond the Eagle guy from Texas Tech, are going to co-chair that thing. Tiger Woods, 86. I don't love the government being involved, but I had hoped after he retired that Saban would get involved with helping fix some things in college football instead of replacing Corso on game day, essentially. Like him or hate him, he's a big influence and people will listen to him. Can also get any meeting he wants, but I still think a CBA is inevitable at some point, talking about NIL and college athletics. If he can at least get help, or at least help get the transfer portal window's calendar fixed, that would be a win. I think anything would be a win right now with the way that college athletics is being run.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, I honestly don't understand what this college commission thing is or what exactly.
I don't think that a whole lot of people do. I know that we talked to Pete Nakos about it, and he's still trying to get his head wrapped around the idea of what the actual, I think, like, baseline, okay, what are we trying to get accomplished is.
Yeah, but I think my takeaway from it is Nick Saban is obviously a very powerful voice, right? He when people talk, everybody listens. And number two, he's a traditionalist. And so for those of us that want the old college football back, or at least some version of it, or to, maybe reel some of this stuff back in, maybe Nick Saban is the right person to actually get some of this stuff done. So from that angle, I don't see how it can hurt.
He's at least a voice in the room that if something is stupid that is trying to be pushed together, he would at least say, this isn't going to work for what we're doing.
It's also the same stuff with, like, I always think you look at the college football playoff committee and it's full of a bunch of people who have maybe never even played the sport, coached the sport. Maybe they're an athletic director, but that doesn't mean that football. I think the committee should be made of people like Nick Saban. I'm not saying Nick Saban should have final say on who's in and out of the playoff, but that's why I think that having Nick Saban involved in anything, who knows the sport as well as anybody, it's not a bad thing.
One more post on this subject from Sooner B. This is a follow-up from Freaky T. You can see you think that there's going to be legislation overruling capitalism and the free market. That's what the Supreme Court decision was based on. Now there might be legislation that directs athletic departments to be of an employee-employer relationship, but that's to my second point. Sooner B follows up, I only hope that there is legislation that allows the NCAA to change the transfer rules to require a player to sit out a season after transferring. I'm generally okay with NIL, but I think requiring players to sit out a season when transferring would rein in some of the NIL chaos that occurs.
Yeah, I think some rule, maybe not forcing them to sit out. Maybe if it's like their second transfer or third transfer, then maybe there would be some sort of penalty. I think the more important thing is getting these guys on contracts where they can't just enter the portal and there not be either a consequence or pay deduction or something like it. If you're signing guys to 2 to 3 year contracts and it says in their contract, hey, you can't transfer unless, a coach leaves or, there's some family emergency that you got to move or so, something like that. I think that's a better solution than just saying, oh, you got to sit out a year.
I think anything's better than what the current format is.
And I think
calling for.
I think you're going to see a lot of change in the rules this summer.
Sure,
I really do. I think you're going to see the revenue sharing. I think that's going to happen, some version of it at least. And I think you're going to see maybe the spring portal kind of go away.
I don't think it'd be a bad idea too if they could talk them into it. It'd probably be a bunch of work, but Nick Saban as a college football commissioner, it just
awesome.
makes almost too much sense. I know that we always try to volunteer people for jobs that they probably don't want, but what's the worst that you could have to do?
I do think he's enjoying retirement, but at the same time, he just took this job from President Trump, so I don't know. Maybe he's not enjoying it, because that sounds like I don't know if I'd want to be doing that at 70-something years old.
Yeah, I don't even know what a commissioner, what would that even call for? What would the job, I guess responsibilities have to be day in and day out?
Probably just dealing with a lot of people bitching about stuff.
Yeah. Maybe we should make some of these senators moderate message boards. They'd get the picture a little bit quicker. All right. You wrote about it on, I think it was Wednesday on Soonerscoop.com, your weekly mailbag, taking questions from subscribers. There was a big talking point in a comparison with Oklahoma and Texas's roster. And of course, some people have comments on that. Indy Sooner fan, at best, UT and OU offensive line and safety is a push, not an advantage for Texas. They lost a lot on the offensive line, and I know they are deep, but they are not that deep.
Yeah, I knew, because so the question in the mailbag was basically for me to compare every single unit on offense and defense for Oklahoma versus Texas and which team has the advantage. And I gave Texas the advantage in offensive line and safety, and I think a lot of OU fans were like, well, how could you do that? Well, to defend myself, OU's offensive line was horrific last year. And I understand Texas lost, I think, 4 starters up front. And maybe at best it is a push. But until I see something from this OU offensive line, I just don't believe it. And then at the same time,
we talked through the safety position in the Sooner Scoop offices as George was putting this together. And it's kind of like the offensive line. It's like, do I think that Michael Boganowski, Reggie Powers, Jaden Hardy, Peyton Bowen, Robert Spears-Jennings, on paper, that's a pretty damn good group, but that's kind of what it is right now. You're talking about a bunch of sophomores that haven't really played a lot.
My theory when doing this was I look at the roster and I if it's close, I just gave the advantage to Texas, because the reality is the last few years, Texas has just had a better roster. They've been more talented, and especially at some of those positions, when you think about up front, especially, I think that Texas has done a really good job recruiting talent, developing talent up front on the offensive line. At safety, they bring back Michael Taffe. Is that how you say his name? Taffe?
Yeah, Taffe.
Yeah, he's a really good player.
Either or.
They added a couple guys, I think, in the portal, as well as, they have Jonah Williams, who was, a 5-star that Oklahoma tried to recruit at safety. So that's the reason I gave the edge. If you told me at the end of the year that OU had a better offensive line and a better safety room than Texas, I'd believe you. I would. I think that, they can. They have a lot to prove, and they lost somebody at safety too, and Billy Bowman, that was one of the best players in the country a year ago at that position. It's going to be really hard to replace him. As good as we think Peyton Bowen and Michael Boganowski, Jaden Hardy, all those guys are, we have to see it on a consistent basis. So, again, I think Oklahoma can be better in both those spots, but let's see it.
There's a lot that we have discussed here over the last couple of months since the end of the season, and I don't think that there's a position group that we've talked more glowingly about than Brandon Hull's safety group.
Yep.
So there is a bunch of talent there. You're just going to need to be able to see it. There is another subject to talk about that, really I think around the Scoop offices is a party of one. There's one person that likes to talk about it.
Yeah.
It's Carrie Murdoch. And it is George's wedding that is coming up here in about, a month and a half?
64 days.
64 days, so about 2 months, really?
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's going to be 1,000 degrees by the time we get to July,
Yes.
but let's get into it. The registry has been a topic of discussion on the unofficial 40. Queso Blanco, the last 10 minutes of the pod was a beating. Carrie Murdoch just wants to flex his pocket change a bit. George quit being a sissy and let the man spend $400. He's just jealous you have one more degree and one more wife. Love you both. Funny line right there. I did not pick up on that when I was reading through these the first time.
Yeah, that was a good line. But listen, Carrie ended up, he has bought a gift on my registry that is a great gift, and I'm very appreciative of it. But the whole point of this, do we have a second post for this one?
I think so, yes.
Okay, let's read that, and then I'll get to this.
Harry Beanbag followed up Queso Blanco's post and said, that was the best part of the pod, in my opinion.
Yes, yeah, it was funny. But my principle on this was, it's not about the record player. It's about Carrie wanting to buy something that's not on the registry.
That's right.
Just go. It's a very simple process, right? It's a very simple process to go to the registry and just pick something on it. And he eventually did that. So I applaud him for that. But, if he wants to...
He might be lying to you, though, and he might have just went ahead and bought whatever he wanted.
Which is what at this point, I don't really care.
Just take it back if you do.
And the other
Get the
part...
money.
Yeah, true. I would just take the money. But the other part of this, too, is I have very little, if anything, to do with the registry. So this whole back and forth is like...
You don't even know.
I don't even know what's on there for the most part. So it's... that's very much Erin's. She has put it together. So just buy something on there and let's keep the wife happy.
So oftentimes here over the last decade, really, since all of my friends have been getting married, it's basically just play your part as the groom.
Yeah,
is what I've watched from afar, and I think you're doing a pretty good job of it.
Thank you, Eddie. I appreciate that.
And I don't want to make it about me, but I do want to announce that I have made a purchase for George and Erin's wedding as well. I'm sending them on their honeymoon to Maine. So I thought that was pretty cool. I don't want to give it up to myself, but
wow.
I'm doing that. Yeah.
Do you have any idea how much? I don't. Well, we can do this off the air, but it's an expensive trip.
Yeah, and I
surprisingly
have already paid for it. So
wow,
we look forward to taking that trip up there. I'm coming with though. That's the
really?
the adage.
So there's also a wedding that's why we're going up there. So we have a wedding to attend. So are you?
I'm just going to Fenway. I'm just going to Boston.
Okay.
I'm just going to Boston, and then I'm going to come back. All right, that's going to do it for another week of Around the Quarter. Big Thunder game here on a Friday.
Huge.
The Friday night 9 p.m. tip is
Late.
it's late, but it's about as good as it could possibly be from a watch party standpoint. I would
I'm a little
imagine on
nervous.
a Friday night. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully
Big
they
game.
play about as well as they did on Wednesday night in Game 2 when they tied it up. All right, for George, I'm Eddie. We will see you here on Monday for another recruiting report, catching up with Josh McQuistion here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel.